again. Steve here at the Illinois Recording Studio. Got a funky kit here. This is ROGERS, and it's ROGERS back during what I'll call the Eagle Badge era, because on the badge there was an American Eagle. So this goes back to the later 50s. And these drums were 3-ply drums, and they were a much warmer sounding shell, and they also generally had a more rounded bearing edge as well, which contributes to that. Now, this particular kit, from this point in time, there are certain unique features. Number one, these are what they call the bread and butter lugs, for whatever reason. And the way these lugs were made, they were actually brass. They were drawn brass and pressed. But when they were pressed, they formed a little tab underneath, and then they folded on these sides. And what happened by pressing that in one motion, in one step, it ended up where you had little stress cracks along these corners of the lugs right here. And that became a problem over time, and later on they switched from these lugs to what are the more commonly known as, referred to as beaver tail lugs around 64. So these lugs, on this kit there are some that have those hairline cracks, and these smaller ones that were on the 12s don't seem to have that issue. But each drum has an internal tone control in it. The bass drum, you'll see the hoops have red sparkle inlays. I don't know why. Should have silver sparkle inlays, but it's got what it's got. Now you're going to see a bunch of weird things on here, and if you look into the ROGERS catalog around 58, 59, for old people like me, you'll remember this, they had something called a Cozy Coal setup. And with the Cozy Coal setup, they had a bunch of stuff hanging off the bass drum, including the snare drum. So you see you got a Swivomatic tom arm here, but if you look over here, you see another Swivomatic tom arm coming out here, and there's a bracket that has the snare drum basically attached off that arm instead of a snare drum stand. And then on the floor tom here, this served a dual purpose. It served as a regular floor tom, but you could then also change it up and make it into a cocktail setup. But there are all these brackets, and you're going to be saying, well, all these brackets, they can't be original, that can't be right. It is right, because what you could then do is you could take your Swivomatic tom holder, put it in here, and hang the snare drum off here, hang a tom off the other side, have a small cymbal, like a cry cymbal or a closed set of hi-hats, like these little 10-inch hi-hats over here, and you had a reversible bass drum pedal that played the floor tom up from the bottom up. And that was a ROGERS invention of the newer version of a cocktail kit. Cocktail kits used to be set up like that, except the floor tom, which served as a floor tom bass drum, was basically 24 inches high and was designed for someone to do stand-up playing with it. So ROGERS was like, well, why stand up and play that thing? If you had a small trio, you know, you could have piano, bass, drums, you had that little cocktail setup, maybe the singer played it for a little, you know, background. Why stand up all night? You can sit down here and do the same thing. So it was kind of unique. ROGERS had some unique stuff going on at the time. And of course, the Swivomatic tom holder design, the ball and socket design, that design was the first of its kind, and every other ball and socket you see took the lead from this design. This is where it originated from. So I'm just going to play this kit a little bit. We got a beautiful 18-inch Zildjian that came in. It makes a beautiful little ride and crash. It's just a great cymbal. And a set of 10-inch hi-hats, which are very, very cool. Zildjian as well. But those things are just great. So we're going to play it a little bit, give you a little sense of what it sounds like. A lot of warmth and depth. It's an 8x12, 16-16, 14x20, 5x14 snare. And again, all ROGERS Eagle badges, so this is later in the 50s. And, you know, we'll have at it. Have a little fun with it here. Okay, here we go.